Phish, the band, influenced my songwriting. I studied classical voice in college, which is essentially an opera singing degree, and I've been teaching singing for my whole career. And I also am a musical theater person. But this April, I decided to finally publish songs because I started songwriting when I was 18 and I just never did anything about it. I was like, oh, you have to get discovered, blah, blah, blah. But now we have this whole indie thing. We have TikTok, we have YouTube, but you don't need a label anymore. And why am I not doing it? It's like fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of people talking bad about me. It's like, I don't really care. So I got to a certain point where I'm like, this is my truth. I'm going to speak my truth. And I'm only getting older, right? So there's no point in putting it off. So finally in April, I'm like, you know what? I'm inspired. I have a lot of emotions to work through from a breakup. And I'm just going to write this big breakup album. I mean, hey, Taylor Swift does it, right? So I write this album. I do singles. And as singles come out, I write them. Okay. So then over the summer, I basically blew up. I became viral in the Phish community for about 36 hours. And it happened because I had made a TikTok video. Sisters explained to me what the big deal with Phish, it's spelled Phish, and it's a band. And I was talking about, I had met a guy on a date and he was talking about how he loved the band Phish so much. And he's like, do you like Phish? And I'm like, no, I don't. And like, so as I find out later, like 90% of Phish fans are men. So would have been a small chance of that anyway. But the point is, the Phish fans who, like all of us, aging millennials, Gen X, and boomers, every year we become slightly more relevant. I know it's hard to say. So this is mostly a community of people who have just been aging up with Phish, who became fans, you know, kind of initially, and then as the band ages up, so does the fan base. So they've been kind of increasingly, I don't want to say irrelevant, but let's just say it's not like they were doing like a Brat summer dance, you know, like they're not like keeping up with the TikTok times. And there's actually not that much digital video of them. They're still kind of stuck in the meme generation because Gen X loves memes. I mean, they did invent the internet, so that's fine. I started writing my sixth single, and in July, I came up with, I just kind of mess around on my piano and I sing, and I basically came up with this voice memo. So then over the next few months, I worked on it with hobby time, whenever I had time between my work and my life, my kids, whatever, my life, just everything. And at one point, the song became kind of EDM, and then I'm like, no, I think it should be like a big band jazzy feel. So I kind of put it back in piano and bass and kind of jazzy instruments. So here's where the Phish part comes in. So on the bridge, initially when it was in the EDM era, it sounded like this. And then I changed it later to kind of sound big band, but everybody hated it. My kids hated it. Everyone's like, that just sounds awkward. It's like a sudden, like it just changes so quickly and it's just so abrupt and we don't like it. I was like, okay. So I was I started doing Phish reaction videos because there's just not that many creators in the space. Surprise, surprise, you know. It's like this niche band doesn't have like a ton of people reacting to it. Who knew? Definitely not many women reacting to it. So I found a niche, yay. So I recently reviewed YEM, You Enjoy Myself. And in that song, a cappella section at the end of the song. And then that kind of just like, I reviewed it, I thought about it, I was like, this is so interesting. You can see my review on YouTube, I think it's on TikTok too, where I just talk about like the vocal a cappella part. And I thought it was so cool because I have a big background in choir music, choral music, right? And so I sang a cappella for years, right? You know, ba, 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 you have to do all the instruments. And then I'm like thinking about it and I'm like, wait a minute, what if I make the bridge of my song a cappella? And then it was like, eureka. And so basically I put in this a cappella section for the bridge, and I think it turned out really awesome. I think it's one of the coolest parts of the song. And yes, it was inspired by Phish because in YEM, they have a vocal a cappella section. And I was like, well, if Phish could do a vocal a cappella, I can do a vocal a cappella. So anyway, that's how we got the bridge of BOYZ WKND.
So when you got back, I had to read the chat. Saw your undefended phone and typed in the code. Ladies beware if you read the chat called the boys. You may never repair all the trouble you unfurl. So be prepared to expect the worst once you read the chat. You can never go back.
Bass. I even take out the drum track. And I just leave the voices doing all the backups except for the bass. I kept the bass in because I'm a soprano and I can't sing super low. So I did do things down in my alto register, boom, 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 but that's it. I don't have a sub octave of that. So I left in the bass line because I think it just adds more depth to have a bigger range of pitches in there. Anyway, so here's the finished product. And so yeah, Phish has already inspired me. That's my point. And I'm sure as I listen to more Phish videos and do reactions, that just adds to my musical repertoire. In general, I think the fact that I grew up with a lot of classical music, I grew up listening to the Beatles, I grew up listening to a lot of musicals, just kind of not exactly the typical like American who just listens to like top 40 or rap or hip hop or whatever. Like I had like a more varied musical background. I was into weird like indie music, strict machine, kind of like electronic rock thing. So I really liked them. I think the more you kind of like listen to different types of music, it just opens up your musical repertoire and you start to be like, oh, there's so many more possibilities. And a band like Phish is a great example. They really do tons of experimental stuff, and Trey has a back, as they love to say, the Phish fans. Trey has a music degree, and he's written classical compositions and orchestras and things like that, and apparently like a musical or something. So when you have that kind of musical background, it just gives you more of a palette, if you will. Like if you think of it as like an easel, and you have your palette of colors, and the more exposure to different kinds of music you have, that just becomes in your palette. Right? So as I'm writing, I'm like, oh yes, that, and I like that sound, and let's put a little bit of this in, a little spice. It's a spice collection, right? So that's how Phish has inspired my songwriting, and I want you to hear the song before the change of the acapella and after.